Thanks for joining us on another episode of So What's Next? I'm your host, Jeremy Madore.
And I'm your co-host, Kristen Smith.
And today we're sitting with
Lauren Howe of empHoweredPR.
Lauren, you want to give us a quick synopsis of your business so that we can kind of get started from there?
Sure. So we are a boutique public relations consultancy firm, team of about 5 people. And our main goal is to really give brands a voice. Mm-hmm. So you have your graphic, which is your logo. But what does that really mean? What does that mean to all of the stakeholders that you engage with? And that could be anyone from your customers, clients, your investors, your suppliers, distributors, but it could also mean your employees and all of that stuff. So really trying to find what makes your company tick and trying to tell a story based on what you do and the benefit of what you bring to the industry. And I really love to dive in even further and say the impact that you bring to the world.
Right. Mm-hmm. Okay. Obviously that's a micro to macro, right?
Exactly.
Transition. Is there a particular sector that you specialize in?
Mm-hmm. So I have 20 years just about of healthcare PR experience, and that's everything from hospital to health insurance and insured healthcare. And then also I worked at a global healthcare PR agency. So doing all kinds of things with medical devices, and all of that. So healthcare is sort of my niche. However, because I have my business, I've really sort of expanded to include manufacturing, which is huge, especially when it comes to STEM education. Yeah. We really want to make sure that the youth are getting excited about manufacturing because I mean, that's where it's at. It's pretty cool stuff. And then nonprofits is also a big client of ours, client base of ours. Yeah. As well as some clean tech thrown in there and some banking and finance. So we're really all over the place.
All right. So you have a good diversification there.
For sure. And I think I always sort of tell clients, I know the PR craft and I know the tools in the PR toolbox and the tactics that we can use to share your message. Yep. But I really love to build the relationship with my clients. Mm-hmm. And I actually have 3 clients that have been with me since the very beginning. So it's going to be 5 years next year. Okay. And I really feel like I'm part of their team. And
you're an extension of who they are.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I have relationships across their entire business, not just with the people that I work with on regular, but their colleagues and their employees know that I'm their PR person. Right. So it's really nice and interesting to feel sort of that camaraderie, especially when I'm really just alone on most days. Yeah. For sure.
All right. Yeah. And is it a lone wolf sort of industry or position?
Yeah. So I'm a PR consultancy. I do have a team, and I have an operations person that really helps me with my books because I'm a writer. I'm not great at math. Yep. Yeah. So I really needed to bring in some expertise with that. So she is wonderful. I also have a graphic designer to come in and help because I also don't know how to do Adobe and Canva and all of that. Yep. I'm learning a little bit, but it's nice to have expertise. Yes, it's nice to have expertise.
For sure.
Yeah, exactly. And then I have a senior writer. So if I'm just really slammed and I need to get a press release done, I have someone that I completely trust who's going to get the job done to the standards that I and my clients would expect to come from my business.
Wonderful.
Sure. So it's really just having these support people available. But on the day-to-day, it's me. Okay. I'm in my office alone. I actually just moved to a co-working space out in Worcester. Okay. Venture X, which is right downtown, and I've just blossomed there. I can leave my office and have coffee and engage with other business owners, and we can sort of have that camaraderie of how's your day going? How is it going for 25? What's new?
That sounds like a continuous mastermind, which is uplifting.
Exactly. And what's really neat about it is there's opportunity for collaboration too. Yep. So I just recently went into a pitch with another business. Okay. Part of that co-working space. So yeah, it's really, really interesting to have that.
How recent is that the co-working space?
Yeah. So I actually moved in there in August, I believe. It was like around Labor Day,
Yeah,
late
fairly
August.
recent,
And before that, I was a member of the Idea Lab in Worcester.
Oh, yeah.
So I have a lot of clients in Worcester. So it made sense for me to have a safe space, I would say, where I can go, I can have a VPN access. I'm not in a coffee shop where I might be having confidential conversations on my phone, right?
Yeah.
But being in between client meetings, it just didn't make sense. So the Idea Lab was great at first. When Venture X opened and I could actually have an office with a door and not have to lug my stuff back and forth.
Yeah.
I mean, of course you bring the laptop with you and all of that, but to have a true office there with all my supplies and everything made it really perfect.
Prior at Idea Labs, it was probably modular, in and out.
Exactly.
Carry in, carry out.
Exactly. But you had your private space. If you needed to get on a call, you could shut the door.
Right.
And it was right downtown as well. So it made sense. And it was a great stepping stone for me. But now it's just, I'm really loving the whole Venture X culture and everything.
Yeah.
Very good. Very good.
Yeah.
So can you tell us a little bit about how PR is different than like marketing? I know it's kind of all in the same umbrella, but can you share the types of work that you do on a day-to-day basis?
Sure.
And how they differentiate from what a marketing person might do.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, they are similar. So with marketing, you might be doing something like an ad buy or doing advertising. A lot of paid media, we call it. So something that would be very tangible, billboards, ads, stuff like that. For PR, I like to sort of say that it's a chess game. Okay. So I like to use the RACE model when I work in PR. So RACE would be research, action, communicate, evaluate. So I'm going to research your business and research your competitors and research your industry to find out what are your stakeholders reading? Where do you want to be in the future? I'm going to ask really tough, pointed questions to the leadership to find out what makes them tick, what makes them passionate, what are their employees passionate about? And then I'll take all of that and I'll come up with sort of potential actions. So I might want to do a paid, maybe I would want to take out an ad. That might be something that I would want to do. The other thing would be sort of social media. So would social media be appropriate here? And if so, usually it is. If so, which one? LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, so on and so forth. Then you have your earned media, and that's the PR sweet spot. That's really where my value comes in.
Earned media.
Earned media. So earned media is utilizing, pitching, stories, relationships in order to get your story out. So I'm earning the media for my clients with the relationships and the value that I bring with the media, with my experience there. And then, we talked about paid, social, and then owned media. So let's look at your website. You own that's something that you own. You might have a blog, you might have a podcast, something you own. How can we look at those and pivot from them in order to align with what's going on and what we've learned in the research phase of it? Then we come up with the C, which is the communication side. And the communication is we figured out what we want to say, but now we need to figure out how to say it and how to get it across succinctly, and make sure that regardless of who we're talking to, whether it's a supplier, an employee, or a customer, that the messaging is going to ring true for each of those stakeholders, right? So I like to do a great project. It's called a message map. And that's getting people from all stakeholders. So we get them in a room. You could have your CEO there. Typically it's not. Typically it's maybe your HR person or maybe an IT person, someone that's not on the front lines, but knows a lot about the company and about the leadership team. And then maybe you have someone that is an accountant, one's an IT person, someone from all walks of life. And then maybe you want to throw in a customer. Sometimes if you have a good relationship with a customer and you're explaining that you're doing this project, that's what you'd want to do. Yeah. And again, we ask these pointed questions based on what we learned in the research to find out what's going to make you tick, what's going to make you tick, what's going to make you tick. Yeah. What's very interesting, and this is what I love the best about it, you could be doing this for 2.5 hours, and regardless of which bucket you're in, it's the same words. Someone is saying the same words. So what I usually do is I have walls full of Post-it paper and I write all over them. And then there's maybe 6 or 8 poster papers. And then I give each person at the table a different colored marker.
Yep.
And I say, I want you to go around and I want you to circle what words resonate most with you on each of these and pick 3 on each piece of paper. They always pick the same words. It's wild. And the surprise of, wow, we're saying the right thing.
Yep.
But we're not succinctly saying it the right way.
Right.
So then you take all of that and you come up with a communication plan using the research, the actions, and the communications. Then 3, 6, 9, and 12 months, you evaluate that.
Yep.
Right? How's it working? Are you getting the followers that you want on social media? Are we getting the results that we want with the earned media and all of that? So it's really a process that I like to use. I think it makes sense. It works. And all of that. So, and it's something that is fluid. And that's an important thing that I like to tell my clients too. This type of work is a fluid relationship and it's fluid. So it's always going to change based on a number of things. One, is there something going on internally that changes that we need to pivot? Is there something going on externally with your company that we need to pivot? Is there something going on in your industry that we might consider pivoting based on what's going on?
Sure.
It could be temporary. It could be permanent. We don't know. And then also in the community too, is there something that's affecting your community that you can somehow have a part of and you can make the world a better place, right?
Yeah,
you can make the community better, right?
Yep.
And I think that really rang true looking back at the Leominster floods. So, I live in Leominster. My business here in North Central is Leominster. And I have clients in Leominster and we were all affected by that, right? And I have friends all over the place and I learned that the city of Leominster was in desperate need of sump pumps.
Yeah.
They were like, we just need pumps. Send us pumps. And I said, who do I know could get us pumps? Like, bam.
Yeah.
So what do? I call the Chamber of Commerce and I say, you have an HVAC, this membership, that membership. Can you blast them with an email and say, City of Leominster needs your pumps. Can you please contact this number if you can help? So it's really like this HVAC company might not know that this is a need.
Sure.
But because of their expertise, they're sort of pivoting that. They're pivoting what they're going to do for the day. They're going to help their fellow man in the community of Leominster, right? They're going to help the recovery efforts. But that's also a story to tell from a PR perspective. So imagine you're a trade publication. You're focused on HVAC or you're focused on plumbing. I mean, I don't know. And you want to share that this was something that you did. You used your expertise. It's a really great story to tell. And imagine if you had someone that you helped speak about it. It's not related to plumbing. It's not related to pipes. It's not related to equipment.
Yeah.
It's related to how you as a company responded.
Yeah.
And that's a big part of PR too.
Yep. Yeah. There's no marketing in that.
Right.
Because you don't market yourself as someone who responds to disasters.
Right.
You market yourself as someone who has the capacity to respond to needs. Whereas the PR element is, I'm also doing this so that we can all get along a little bit better.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And it could be, during the pandemic, I had some challenges with my business. I actually quit my corporate job in February of 2020. Got my LLC on March 9th of 2020.
There's so many people with that story.
And
it's
on March
unreal.
13th, the state shut down.
Yeah.
So I didn't get an LLC for several weeks.
Wow.
Several weeks. Yeah. And I myself had to pivot as a business owner, right? Yeah. And during that time, I couldn't technically do the work, right? I could help my friends and stuff. And I had a friend who had a activewear company, small business activewear company. And she wanted to do something. And I said, you got to make some masks. Use your fabric and make masks and give them to the hospitals. Yeah. And she did. And that's a great story. Yeah. Another business, I didn't really help them, but I just remember the story. There's this awesome small business up in Lake Placid, New York. And she does soaps and candles. Yep. And she was able to pivot and make hand sanitizer. Yep. So how do you repurpose what your expertise is, what your knowledge is, and maybe even what your product is into helping? Yep. And it's not only, it's a great PR moment, but it's so empowering.
Right. It's not for I think that if someone were to go about it properly, it wouldn't be for the PR. It would be for it's the right thing to do.
Exactly.
And then the derivative of that is the PR.
Right. Yeah. Right. Because 10 times out of 10, I'll say to my clients, that's a really great story. Yeah. We should share that. Yeah. Well, no, we didn't do it. We just did it because
we're getting that too. Yeah. We're getting that exact same thing. Like, we want to tell people stories, and we'll say like, no, you haven't. And they're like, no, I don't. Yeah. Like, this is all I do. I'm like, that's a lot. Yeah. It doesn't have to be this grand story.
It really doesn't. It really doesn't.
No, people underestimate the power of simple acts. And they think that heroism is reserved for elites. And the truth of the matter is that, the whole everyday heroes thing, it's a reality.
Yes.
And even in our own community, small actions make large waves over time. And so that's a good point as far as ways that we can look at public relations in a manner that's more holistic.
Right? Yeah. And honestly too, I mean, if you look at it from like a reputation management, even a crisis communications issue, if you're engaged in your community and people know what you do and they know that what you say, you stand behind that.
Yeah.
I mean, if you have a major issue, you have like it's like a brand bank.
Yep.
People know who you are. They know what you do. They know that you're not lying to them because you haven't in the past. You've put your actions, your words into action, and you have proved that. So it's not going to hit you as hard and as fierce as it would if you were just, as I say, the smokestack up on the hill and no one knows who you are, what you do, or who your leaders are.
Yep.
Right.
And I've seen both. I've experienced both in my career, and I'll tell you, it makes a lot of sleepless nights when you don't have that, when you don't have the relationships, and you don't have your selectman or your police chief on speed dial in your phone.
Especially if you're brick and mortar and you're trying to scale your operations. The building process, and I'm not even talking about the construction, but the actual act of building a business is fraught with pitfalls that people don't know until they've already ran over them or stuck in the bottom of them. Yes. And so it's really hard to predict what that looks like. And it's kind of priming the pump, as it were, trying to get off the ground from a PR standpoint before you actually need it, right? Yes. I would assume that this is one of those kinds of things that you don't know that you have bad PR until it's too late.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Right. And in a way, when you have relationships like that, you have a pulse on what's going on in the court of public opinion too, because you're out and you're listening and you're seeing who's interacting with who, and you're paying attention to that. So, you might even be able to get ahead of it if something were to hit you. And I think, that's why I try to drive home as much as possible with my clients. Your brand isn't just your logo. It is the why. And with the why comes the how and the what and the when too, and that goes back. I mean, I was a journalism major in college, and I'm a trained journalist. So I know sort of to ask those probing questions and to get the stories, right? And there's just a very unique way of trying to tell them effectively to each stakeholder.
Yeah, because the message has to be tailored to the individual that's receiving it. And if you're not talking in the language that demographic needs to receive it in, then you're just falling on deaf ears. What got you involved? So you talked about journalism major in college. What propelled you in that direction? Is there anything particular?
Yeah. So very interesting. I always wanted to be like a dental hygienist growing up. It's very interesting. And I don't know why, because I'm petrified of the dentist.
Maybe that's why.
Yeah, I know. Petrified of the dentist.
Right or wrong.
I don't like dentists.
I'm with you.
Oral surgeons, dentists. No. Good. Orthodontists. No. I mean, no disrespect to them.
I understand.
Great career choice if that's, but I don't want to be in the chair.
Major white coat.
Yeah, no, I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. Don't, no.
The answer is no.
No, yeah. So ironically enough, in high school, I went to Leominster High, and I had a teacher, and she was my speech teacher, and I would write speeches and present them to the class. And she said, you really have a knack for this writing thing, and you should pursue some of this. And I knew math wasn't my strong suit. I mean, algebra, no. Geometry, no, I'm good. Thank you very much. Summer school beckoned with those. I'm good. We know it's not going to be biology or chemistry or that. And so I said, okay, we'll entertain the writing side of it. Cause I really did. I like to write.
Yeah.
And I found it enjoyable. And I think I just didn't know that I could make a career out of it, honestly.
Yeah.
And so I went to the Mount for 2 years. I came from a single parent home, and Syracuse, Emerson, they were wonderful schools that I really wanted to go to, but we just couldn't swing it financially.
Sure.
And so my mom had said, go to the Mount 2 years and then we'll revisit this. So I went to the Mount, did the 2 years, got my associate's degree. I will say the Mount, wonderful school. I'll share this too. And it's public, but they actually a professor there identified my dyslexia as a learning disability.
Oh, okay.
After struggling in high school and in middle school, even in elementary school, wondering, why am I stupid? Why is this not clicking?
Sure. Did that have a play in your math?
Probably. Definitely the geometry.
Yeah.
Definitely the algebra. A, B equals C, D.
Oh, yeah.
You're going to switch it.
Look.
That has to be affecting everything in your life.
Yeah.
Reading.
Yep. And no one, they just thought she isn't good with that. And so the Mount, this one professor said, when did you get diagnosed with dyslexia? I said, what are you talking about?
Oh,
what?
Wow.
I don't have dyslexia.
He unknowingly called you out.
Yeah.
Thinking that you had already.
Yeah. And and he wanted to help, how can we help you? How can we help you figure this out? And I said, I don't know.
I don't know what you're talking about.
So I was diagnosed with dyslexia, which having a PR firm and writing as a career and being successful at it proves that the Mount showed me how to.
That's amazing.
Combat that.
Wow.
And how to
work with it.
Yep. And not see it as a deficiency.
Right.
But seeing it as a strength.
Boom. I want my oldest daughter to listen to this one. She doesn't have dyslexia, but ADHD is a big thing in my genes. And I pass that very willingly on to our 4 girls. And it's just one of those things where I've learned to use it as a power, not as a negative.
Exactly.
And my 17-year-old is still learning how to treat it as a positive and not a negative. She's starting to gamify a little bit, where she realizes, she's realizing some of the trends that are allowing her to sit and wallow, and she's trying to eliminate those trends. And so, to her credit, she's making some major changes and shifts in her life. But to see what the other side of that looks like is a very foreign thing to her, because she sees me, but she's always seen me as as one of our kids. So it's very different when it's a parent versus just a random individual. And it's hard because a lot of times when we're confronted with these stereotypically debilitating things, it's really a self-defeating experience. What kind of personality did you have at the time versus now that got you through that? Was there a conscious decision to overcome this, or?
I think it was just an acceptance of it. Okay, this is what I have. These are the cards I'm dealt, and how am I going to play my hand? And I had so much support there. And so I was in a great program at the Mount, specifically tailored to a learning disability. I had tutoring, and they would take the classroom work and teach me how I needed to be taught.
Okay.
And give me alternatives on how to read.
Right.
I love reading. I've loved reading since I was very little, which is very interesting. Some things I would have trouble comprehending. It's not that I wasn't reading it correctly. When it went in,
it fell out.
I don't understand what this means. I could take an oral exam, no problem, to write it down, to take it from reading it in my eyes, putting it in my head, and then bringing it down to my pen was very difficult. So having I think I was doing IEP before an IEP was an IEP.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah. But the Mount gave me the flexibility to do that.
Sure. So
I went on to, further, I decided that I was going to major in journalism. And I actually double majored in political science, and I went to UMass Amherst.
Oh, okay.
And the political science side was, maybe I'll go to law school. I was really passionate at that point in time about children and women's rights and all of this great stuff. And I said, maybe I'll do that. Okay, I'm thinking I'm going to be a lawyer. But I need to be a good writer to be a lawyer.
Yeah.
And I also want to learn, the political science side of it. So I double majored in that. and ironically enough, got my first internship doing radio.
Mm-hmm.
I was doing afternoon radio, talk radio, and doing some disc jockey, DJ and stuff.
Where was that?
That was at a news station in Northampton called WHMP.
Okay.
And back then it was 99.3 Rocks. Yep. Which was really fun. And my first job out of college was doing morning news radio down in Ocean City, Maryland, right outside of Ocean City, Maryland. So
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So I moved out of New England, and I was Lauren Kennedy on the news because I had a Boston accent and they thought that was funny. So they called me Lauren Kennedy because the Kennedy, from Massachusetts. I did not come up with that. That was something that was inherited. Wow. It was given to me, my given radio name.
Sure.
But I'll tell you, back at that point in time, I had a waterfront condo in Ocean City with my own boat slip and jet ski. And
wow.
I was living the life, and it was pretty cool in the summer. In the winter, it wasn't so much.
Sure.
It wasn't so much. So I didn't last too long down there. I came home and I decided I was going to do some writing just on the side. So I did some freelance writing at some newspapers and just sort of hung out. And I really didn't know what I wanted to do. I was like, I don't know what's going on. And I'll share with you, it's a really interesting story. And this goes to show you that you never know who you're talking to.
Mm-hmm.
And you never know the impression that you're going to make on someone.
Yep.
So,
and when that's going to come out later
Exactly. So my boyfriend at the time lived in Philadelphia, and it was Easter weekend, and I was going down to Philadelphia. I was in the terminal, the airport terminal, and there were these two twins, and they were just the cutest little things. I just ate them up. And I was playing with them, and we got delayed. And the parents, what do you do? Are you in school? What's your story? And I'm talking to the dad and the mom, and I'm playing with the kids because they're just adorable, and I'm having a good time, and I'm keeping them occupied. And so the dad says, oh, you write. What do you like to write? And I'm like, I don't know. I write anything. And he goes, you do tech writing?
Oh.
I said, I don't know what that is, but sure, I'll do tech writing.
Yeah, I definitely do tech writing.
Tech writing is amazing. Yeah. I'll do that. And he gave me his business card.
Okay.
And he said, call me up on Monday or, when you're back and let's have coffee. I said, okay. So I honestly didn't even, we exchanged numbers. This was before social media. Yeah. We exchanged numbers. And I was like, this guy, whatever. And it was a Fortune 100 company. this was a big company, very globally well-known.
All because he got along with his kids.
Because I got along with his kids. And sure enough, I Wednesday, I think it was like Wednesday or Thursday that week, he called. He's like, you didn't call me. And I'm like, I thought you were like,
BSing.
Yeah. Being nice.
Yeah.
And he goes, no. He goes, let's have coffee. And I got my first job.
Unbelievable.
Doing tech writing.
Unreal.
Yeah.
And how did you go about learning tech writing? Because tech writing is very different.
And it's not like today where you can just look it up.
It is not like today, because this was 99, 2000-ish, something like that. And this was this was the Y2K boom. This was like, shut your computers off. There's going to be chaos, you know what I really liked about the tech writing, and it was fun, is I could sit in a meeting and I would listen to the engineers talk about the product and how it worked.
This is what I'm most interested in right here.
Yeah, continue. And how it worked.
Yep. And
I was able to put it into very simple terms.
Yep.
Because I could ask the pointed questions to the engineers that a person on the street would be like, I don't know what a LAN cabled US 957 is.
Sure.
But you're telling me to insert it into a US 9564. And he, I remember the engineer, we worked on the same projects a lot together, and he's like, okay, now we're going to talk about it in Lauren terms. And I was like, yes. Okay. Talk to me in Lauren terms. And he would do diagrams for me.
Yeah.
And he would say, this is this, and this is this. Okay, fine. And I would just go back to my desk and say, here's a section. And okay, that works. So in a way, it was like the outside looking in.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
Right. Because I didn't have this knowledge or anything like that, but it challenged me in writing for sure. Yeah. But I learned a lot. I learned a ton. I think the one thing I learned the most out of that whole experience was working with people who are completely different from me in a variety of ways. I'm very like, let's go, let's have fun. And, you have engineer, we're going to sit here and we're going to talk about this and it's going to be fabulous and we're going to have so much fun. And I'm just, So it taught me to chill a little bit and to understand.
I'm thinking about the whole CLI, psychological, like where you fall in that personality.
Yeah.
And working with others and learning to work with others that are different personalities.
Yes.
It's a very important skill.
It is an important skill. And I learned at a very young age how to do that. And you sort of have fun with each other too. Like, oh, here she comes, here comes a cheerleader coming in.
The ability to read those micro vibrations and just kind of muddle through the different dynamics that are presented to you in a given space. That's something that really advances what you're trying to do or what you are doing in your business. Do you find that there are certain companies that aren't a natural fit for you?
Yes.
Okay.
So I don't work in tech. I've never worked in tech. It's not that I don't want to work in tech. I just don't know the language.
Sure.
And I'm very upfront with clients when they come to me. I'm like, oh, you're tech.
What kind of tech are you talking? Like,
I mean, anything related to, I don't know.
Like robotics and software engineering and stuff like that.
Stuff like that.
So
very niche tech
high level
stuff.
Okay.
I can learn it, but I don't have relationships with the media and the tech world.
Sure.
So I have to be upfront with that in the beginning, right? Yep. And the biggest thing for me, and this is where my business plan comes in, and I have it on my wall in my office because I have to remind myself, even if something's really exciting, it has to align with what I committed myself of having my business be.
Yeah.
One is I don't work with jerks.
Okay. All right.
That's fair.
So we have no jerk zone.
Yeah.
And it has to be mutual. I mean, if I come off and they're like, you have a major attitude, you have every right to walk away from me too.
Sure.
Sometimes the personalities just don't mesh, and
that's okay.
Let's just walk away and have a nice time.
World is a big place.
And there's, we'll find someone else. Yep. Right. So there's that. The other one is I have to do work that is life-giving and not life-taking.
Okay. Definitely talk into that.
Yeah, for sure. So for 24 years of my career before I went out on my own, I traveled so much and I did things and worked on things that I did it for the good of a company or I did it for the good of a product. And I really feel like no matter what I do at the end of the day, when I get up in the morning, the world's one way. And by some way, shape, or form, the work that I do with whoever client I'm working with in that day, it's going to leave the world a better place when I close the office door at night. Okay. Yeah. And that could be anything from, encouraging youth to pursue financial literacy and engage with them. It could be anything from we're a startup company and we're going to use cow manure and make electricity and lower the carbon footprint. We're going to come up with a cure for this virus, and all of that. So I really like to engage with clients that in some way, shape, or form, no matter what they do and what industry they work in, they're making the world a better place and they're making someone's life easier, but at the end of the day. So I'm really, really big on that. And there's been times where, I feel like it's a great fit. Okay, we passed that one. That's a great fit. And then at the end of the day, I'm like, I'm not really getting anything out of it. And maybe it's time to move on. Right. And I'll, refer someone out and everything. But yeah, I'm really passionate about that. And I think it goes from, I'm a 2-time cancer survivor. And I want to make the world, I want to leave a mark somewhere. And I'd love to do it with clients. I'd love to say, I helped the client leave a mark here, whether it's through whatever tactic or whatever kind of communication help I provide them.
Okay.
So yeah, so that's where I'm at.
Okay. So my question for you, I guess, is from a fulfillment and a reciprocity standpoint, what really rejuvenates you? What's your big why?
I would say my big why is, that's a loaded question in a way, because I have a lot of big whys.
Okay.
I think.
All right. Pick one.
I would say the importance of making sure that myself, my clients are taking care of themselves.
Okay.
The self-care part of it.
Mm-hmm.
Someone told me a long time ago when I was starting my business, one of my mentors, he said, you eat what you kill. Okay. And he's like, if you want to continue your life in all of the things that you like to do, I like to go to the Berkshires and go to the spa and chill out.
Yep.
That's like my thing.
Yep.
It's very expensive to do that. So if you want to continue that, you're going to have to go out and get the business and do the work, and you'll get the fruits of your labor.
Yep.
Right. So for me, it's, I work hard, play harder, I guess.
Sure.
And to really have experiences when you go through cancer, not once, but twice, you have a very unique perspective on life. The first cancer diagnosis is what drove me to do entrepreneurship, because I wanted to live life on my terms.
Got it.
I wanted to be available and home for my children because they were young at the time. Younger. They were teenagers. One was learning to drive. They're now almost 21 and 22. But making sure that I was there for them.
Yep.
I didn't want to travel as much anymore. People say, what do you want to do when you retire? Stay home. I'd like to stay home. I've been pretty much everywhere I want to go.
Yeah, it sounds like you've had your fair share of airplanes.
Yes, I've had my fair share of airplanes. That's not to say, I'll go to Italy. You want to go to Italy? Let's go. But I want to go where I want to go, right? But there's really no place. I want to go to Australia. That's the one place I'd like to go to. I have said since I was in my 20s, when I learned about the international dateline, that when I turn 50, over my 50th birthday, I will go to Australia and I will hit the dateline. So that way my birthday never happens and I'm always 49.
There you go.
Perfect.
There we go.
I like it.
So that's it. I've been all across the US. I've experienced a lot of Europe, and I'm good. I think, everywhere I need to go, I'm going, but work hard, play harder. And making sure that my kids have exactly what they need. Yes, they're in college. They are both sucking tuition out of me and my husband, but I'm working hard and I'm playing harder for them too. Sure. And I'm giving them the tools that they need for their future.
Thinking beyond yourself, and having the ability to hand that down to them once it comes time.
Yeah, exactly. So, there's that. And Kristen knows, I think she knows this. Like I'm a big fan of Coldplay, and I try to hit a show once a year. Yep. They're not always in the U.S.
No, they're very rarely in the U.S.
They're very rarely in the U.S., but that doesn't mean that Lauren has to stay in the
U.S.
Right?
That's funny. That's funny.
No, I love that.
So it's something that I like to do, and it's great. And honestly too, I know we talked about this sort of pre-podcast, but the work that I do with the luge team, that's just some cool stuff.
Yeah.
And it's internationally facing. These athletes are so hardworking, and they're just inspirational to anyone who, if you engaged with them, you'd say, what's it going to take up? What do you need? How can I help you?
Yeah.
And they're so inspirational. I watch them race. I get emotional.
I bet.
We had a women's doubles team of Siobhan Forgan and Sophia Kirkby. Sophia's dad passed away over the summer, and she wrote a message to her dad on her glove. And the first time they were out on the World Circuit track, they won a gold medal. First ever gold medal on the World Circuit track.
Gives me the chills. That's incredible.
So when you know the story, it's awesome. And
it takes on a whole new meaning.
It does. It takes on a whole new meaning. And again, it's work, but it's fun. And that's what it should be.
Yeah.
Work should be fun, and my daughter says to me, Mom, I'm going to work because my high school teacher at Monty Tech said, if you do something you love, you'll never work a day in your life. And I said, yeah, you can totally do that. And she actually pivoted her college career. She was in special ed, and she's now a theater major. And she just did her first theater production this past Monday. And she knocked my socks off. She was amazing. And I said, where did you come from, my child? And, I'm just so proud of these kids.
And that's so fulfilling too.
Yeah. Yep.
Wonderful.
And that's, again, the fruits of the labor, right? Like I'm putting her through school because I'm working hard.
Yeah. How you define the fruits of your labor it's very subjective to the individual, obviously.
Yeah.
But it really is, at the end of the day, what we consider to be the most important things in our lives. And so long as we are remaining aware that those important things, people, experiences exist, and we're working for those meaningful experiences, I think that there is no such thing as too much work, or not necessarily too much work, more along the lines of a misguided work.
Right.
So long as we are keeping that front and center, I think that it gives us meaning. And at the end of the day, that is what fulfillment looks like, So it's funny, the podcast before this one, we were talking with Brandon over at Ginny's Helping Hands, and we were talking about stuff. Right. And we were talking about lifestyle creep, specifically how, we get bigger homes and we fill it with more things. Right. And what it comes down to, and what I was talking to him about was, if we're just focusing on the core values that we started with, instead of surrounding ourselves with the noise, then we're going to be heading in the right direction. And I get that completely. It 100%. Is about eating what you kill.
Exactly.
Which is a very, boiled down version, but
it is.
It works.
And, further to that, I was a single mom for some years and I really struggled, almost lost my house. And, my daughter was very little at the time, and I filled my house with stuff because I felt like I needed to, like there was I couldn't be like the mom that I needed to be because I was so broken.
Right.
And I just was like, oh, here, you want this? Go ahead. Okay. Mommy will buy that. Let's, and looking back on it, I actually, a couple of years ago during the pandemic, I had a shopping issue on online.
You and a lot of America.
Shopping problem. Yeah. And I had, in the summer of 22, had 3 closets in my house chock full of stuff. And I actually went out to the Berkshires for my birthday that I do every year. And that's when I completely disconnect, and I really spend time like looking on the inside reflecting, and saying, what intentions do I want to set in my next year as, my birth year. Yeah. And one of those was, I don't want to be overloaded with stuff.
Sure.
And so I came home and I got rid, and I consigned a lot of bags. I consigned a lot of shoes. I had 32 pairs of jeans. Who needs 32 pairs of jeans? You need maybe 2, right? So we had 3 SUVs full of stuff going to consignment. Yep. And I took that money and I actually donated it back because it was the right thing to do. I needed to take that uncertainty and that fear that a lot of us experienced during the pandemic and put it towards something bigger than me.
Yeah. Yeah. Not just get a refund on it.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. It needed to do that. So
that way I would assume that by extension, it became something that meant something.
Exactly.
Right. It wasn't a mistake. It was learning. It was growth. And by going through that exercise, it became a positive growth, not a rewinding your steps. Yeah. I get that.
Exactly. So, I have 1 closet now and 0. That's it.
And your shoes.
And my shoes.
We're not giving up the shoes. We're not giving up the shoes.
We are not giving up the shoes.
That's your priority, and that's okay.
I love my shoes. Yep. I love my shoes.
I do know you love your shoes.
With my shoes, I do have quantity, but I'm all about quality.
You don't need 32 pairs of jeans, but you definitely need that in shoes and more in Lauren's world.
Yeah.
I have no horse in the race.
My shoes are an extension of my personality.
Hey.
So and that's cool. Yeah. And that's your priority. Yeah.
Yep. It's interesting. When I had my breast cancer diagnosis, the first thing I said was, I need a pair of cancer kicking shoes. So I went on to my favorite shoe designer. I won't give a plug. And I needed this particular shoe in the hot pink. It was like a pink color, pink metallic. Yeah. And I could not find it anywhere. And so I was just so frustrated because I said, this is the shoe. Yeah. And I have a tracking platform for clients, so I can see if they're coming up and things.
Sure.
So I said, I know where.
You use that as a utility. Fantastic.
So I typed in
Smart.
brand,
Smart.
the name of the
Very
shoe
smart.
and the color.
Yeah.
And then I'd say within a week, Poshmark, bing,
Amazing.
and my size.
Fantastic.
So I got to wear them.
Wonderful. Hey, that's good.
Yeah.
Tracking utilities are really
Yeah. I'm like, wait a minute.
helpful.
I think I can find out because I need to get on top of this.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and that's important to know what you like and to know what makes you feel good in this world. It's like if you have something. The very first day I met Lauren, we were sitting next to each other at the community leadership, and she said, and I didn't know her like hardly at all. And she's like, "You want to see the purse I just bought?" And I was like, "She's my kind of people.
She's my people.
She's my people." I was like, "Yeah."
Yeah.
So in the spirit of the podcast, so what's next? What are you looking to do? We can talk in the coming year. We can talk in the coming your birth year, if you prefer.
Sure.
What are some things that you are trying to put together right now to establish yourself further, construct something bigger, if that's your intent, or even wind down more? So what's on the horizon?
Very interesting question. So I had an opportunity a year ago to work with a coach because I was at an inflection point in my business. Do I go all in on developing this thing into a true-on agency with employees and staff and all of this? Or do I maintain my consultancy? Okay. And it's working fine the way that it's going with, bringing in a subcontractor here and there when a client needs something. Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
And having my bookkeeper. Thank you. My bookkeeper. You have no idea.
I do.
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah, I actually do.
Yeah.
I have 16 employees. I do.
Oh, okay. Yes. Okay. And your payroll company, I'm sure. Yeah. Yep. Payroll. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yes. Oh, yes. Anyway. And I really wanted to dive in on that from a personal perspective because my business is my baby. I built it from the ground up, literally in my kitchen, my dining room table. And I realized that I went into this because I like the relationships and I also like to do the work, and you only have so many hours in the day. So I decided I was going to do consultancy and I wasn't going to go that way.
Yep.
I'm doing okay. I'm eating what I kill.
Yep.
I'm, putting my kids through school. I'm doing what I need to do in life. What's very interesting is my husband is older than I am. He'll be retiring in a couple years.
Okay.
My kids will be out of school.
Yep.
And I mean, we've set ourselves up for a nice life together. And I think, come 27, 28, I might step back a little bit and spend time with my husband because, he's not home a lot. He has a very demanding job as well. And during the pandemic, he was an essential staff. And we didn't see each other. We didn't have any interaction with each other for about 6 months. So until the end of summer, like August, so March to end of August.
That's a significant time.
It is. And you look back on that and you say, I got to get that time back. How do you get the time back? Right. Yeah. And if we can do that, that would be great. That's not to say I would shut the business down. I would just say, okay, what do I really truly want to do here? And work solely on that. So, and there's other things I want to do a podcast. I mean, I've talked to you about this. Yep. I'd love to do a podcast. Yep. I'm a big proponent on mental health. I'm a big proponent on self-care. Yep. And we've got to take care of ourselves. We've got to take care of ourselves, and we cannot burn out because when we burn out, it's not only good for us, it's not good for anything or anyone, including the business. Yep. And you're going to make mistakes and it's just awful. So I'm really big on that. I'm big on let's advocate, let's stop the stigma of this mental health because I have a mental health, I suffer from mental health issues. I'm successful. I can push through it. But you know what? Some days I don't want to get out of bed. Yep. some days I am so panicked and so anxious that I'm like, I don't know if I can do this.
Yeah.
But you know what? You push through it, right? And you do what you have to do. So I'd love to do something like that. I would love to show that you can get through it and you can overcome really awful, adversities. And further to that, with my recent breast cancer diagnosis and going through that as an entrepreneur, what do you do when you run a business and you're not working for 5.5 months?
Yeah.
How do you do that? And everyone's like, write a book. I don't know if I want to write a book. Maybe I'll do that. I mean, I love to write. Maybe I'll do that. But how can I tell the story of that?
Yeah.
How can I inspire or help other entrepreneurs recognize that just because you get dealt a major curveball, you can bring in people that you trust and that we're going to have your back. And I wouldn't have been able to get through that without the people that I brought in to help me run my business during that time.
That's good. It's remarkable that you had the ability, the network, the contacts to do that. I mean, just right back to the airport story.
Yeah.
You never know what kind of fate lies before you, I guess, or the relationships that we generate along the way, how they come full circle eventually.
It's really true. And going through, 2024 was, it hands down the worst year of my life. There's no doubt. And I lost a really good friend in January, very suddenly. I lost my godmother in February. And then I got sick in March. So, it's just been a really trying year. And I'll tell you, you don't know how big your village is until you are in a situation.
On the receiving end?
Yes. Because I'm always the one to say, oh, she's going through this or he's going through this. Okay, Kristen, let's put something up on social media and let's get the community together and how can we help them? Let's do this, let's do that. And I was absolutely blown away by 33 consecutive nights of meals from people in my network at my house. 33 nights consecutively. And further to that, on Mother's Day, which was 5 days after a major surgery that I had, this woman shows up at my house with a laundry basket full of food. It was around lunchtime. And I honestly wasn't sure who she was. I was like, who? She looks familiar. I can't place her.
Okay.
Who is she? And I didn't know if it was like medicine.
Sure.
And then it hit me that I had done a lunch with her about 1.5 years earlier for 90 minutes. And she had heard that this meal train was going on. And she lived out in Boston.
Wow. She made the trek.
And she made an authentic English dinner.
Nice.
For me and my family because she wanted me to have a nice Mother's Day.
Sure.
That's beautiful.
And you never know, again, the impact that you're making. 90 minutes with this person. Yeah. And it goes to show her too. I mean, the kindness of this. I said, you have your own family. And she goes, but it was important for me to do this for you.
Yep.
What? I'm not worthy of that. Yes, you are.
Yeah. And that's all in the network that you're building everywhere you go at all times. And didn't something happen like the day that you rang the bell? Like, weren't there a lot of people that gathered?
Yes. So I can't say enough about the people in North Central Massachusetts and in my community. Unbelievable. So when I finished my treatments, October 30th, I decided I was going to ring the bell at City Hall because they have the Bell of Strength there. And I put it out. I said, if anyone wants to come on. 50 something people showed up.
Wow.
At City Hall.
That's so wonderful.
And clients were there.
Yeah.
Clients from all over the place drove out to Leominster. The mayor came. Some of my business owner friends came. My family, of course. It was the most humbling experience I've ever had in my life to know that I knew that I had support behind me during this process. And I mean, it goes without saying with the meal train. And it was sort of funny. My husband actually said to me, he goes, how many people do you know? I don't even know this many people. Why are there so many people coming to this house all the time? I'm like, because they want to help, Jeff.
It's kind of your job.
They want to help. Yeah. Like they want to help. But to share that moment, with so many people was just amazing. And I'm going to hold on to that forever for sure. And my daughter was there with me and she saw this is the power of people.
Community.
This is the power of community. And P.S., this is where you live.
Yeah.
Like this is your home. This is the people that own businesses in your community. These are the people that, you know, are raising money for the organizations in your community. And it was just, it was really humbling. And again, you know, it's something that I'll never forget that moment. Sure. And even looking back on it, I don't think it's even hit me yet, to be honest with you. I don't think the whole process has even hit me yet.
You've probably just been flying so hard.
Yeah. Right. You know, it's like, you know, diagnosis check, surgery check, treatments check, this check, you know, and you go through the motions. But now that things are settling down a little bit, it's like, wow,
the tidal wave will catch up.
Sort of went through all that, didn't I? And how many trips did we make to Boston? And you really took time off. You know, my husband took a medical leave for a while, and you know, it's interesting, but you know, you just, I think too, at that moment, it's sort of interesting that people ask me, you know, well, what did you think like when you found out you had cancer? And the first thing that came to my mind, and this is going to be like really, was I took my kid to Italy. And I don't know why that was the first thing. It wasn't, you know, oh, I did business, I did it. No, it was, I took my kid. I had that moment with her because I had always wanted to take her to Italy. Yeah. And I had that moment with her, and we went a year before. And that was and I said, you know, that's what I'm holding on to, you know, and how lucky am I to not, to be faced with something like that and to truly not have a regret. I mean, to say that.
Yeah. Do you think that was your way of putting a bookmark in your book?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I think so. Yeah. 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 And how that, you talk about the kindness of people. So one of my good friends, she lives out of state. She was turning 50, and we had said we were going to hit Europe, and we found a cruise. We're cruise people, and we were going to do
really.
Yes. Okay. Yes. And we were going to do Croatia, Italy, Greece, and Slovenia. And a month before the trip, and this is someone I used to work with too, she called and said, I'm not able to go. And we had already made the final payment. And the only thing we could do was transfer the ticket name. So we couldn't cancel. We'd lose the money. And I'm like, I don't know who to even, I can't afford to have two people in my family go. Sure. So my husband's out. I mean, I just can't. I'm like, we can't swing, you know, two people going out of the same pot. We can do one. Yeah. And I was like, I don't know who to call. I mean, who can just take time off in 4 weeks or whatever. And I was blown away by this. She said to me, I was with you in Paris when it was your daughter's first school dance, and she was crying because you couldn't braid her hair because you weren't home. And she said, I want you to take the trip, go with Gracie.
Wow.
Aww. And she gifted me her trip. And I will say that for all the moms out there and the dads, have that time with your children. Have that one-on-one time with your children, because in the hustle and bustle of life and days and their phones and their friends and your work and your phones and your friends and your life, when you are forced to only be together in that situation and experience a brand new area and a brand new country and all of these things with your child, it opened up the opportunity for so many conversations. Yep. And you can't buy that, frankly, you know? And I think it truly made us stronger together, my daughter and I stronger. And what a gift, you know, that was from my friend. And, you know, my daughter will say to me, Mom, when are we going back? I'm like, really?
Yeah, no, I understand that. I do. And for many years, I hustled like heck through growing Madore photography to the point where it was just a blur, absolute blur. And now I'm on the other side of that, where things are managed exceptionally well at a pace that's much more sustainable. We're still juggling a lot as a family, but that downtime, connection time with the children has never been more tight-knit than it is now. And it's only seemingly getting better, to be honest with you. Like, we're investing more and more in those experiences. You know, our oldest is graduating from high school this year, and She has a senior project that's due, and she wants to do the coast of Maine sunrise sunsets for lighthouses, and so it's going to be. What's that?
You going to the Nubble?
That's going to be the low hanging fruit, right? Yeah. Nubble and Portland Head, of course, but we're actually going to go up to Acadia as well and go and do some stuff up there. And we're going to turn it into a long weekend kind of thing where we're going to hit a total of hopefully 8 lighthouses for sunrise at one, sunset at the next, and keep moving around and stuff like that. And so it's those kinds of experience, whatever is able to be done in your wheelhouse, right? It doesn't have to be a cruise to Italy, right? It can be
100%.
It can be a walk in the park.
100%.
Literally.
100%. Yeah.
And it doesn't have to. People think too big for their own selves sometimes, and that pie in the sky, big goal has the ability to keep people from doing anything at all. But if we start thinking smaller, sometimes that's all we need to get out of the comfort zone that we're in and just get us rolling. And once we do that small thing, the next small thing, which is bigger than the previous small thing, is a lot more attainable than it was before.
100%. Yeah.
So having that kind of thing set in motion, time with children, depending on whatever it is that you're doing, anything is better than the nothing that you were doing, or anything is better than the little bit that you were doing, right? Just keep progressing.
Yeah, exactly. And, the gist of me going into entrepreneurship, which was petrifying to begin. I mean, I quit my corporate job. Like I quit a big corporate job to do this. And I did tell my husband, if I do this, I'm committed. I'll pay the mortgage and I'll pay the utilities.
Sure.
So I got a part-time job while I grew the business, doing what I love to do. Again, I love to cycle. I do the Pan Mass Challenge every summer, and I got a job at a local bike shop, and I was selling bikes and turning a wrench, and it was awesome. And I was working with really cool people doing really cool things in an environment that just filled my soul.
Right.
And that, when I got them through the pandemic too, they're like, oh, they're shutting down. What does this mean for us? Well, let me read the guidelines here. And ironically enough, bike shops were not part of Essential, but we have some odd, dozens and dozens of bikes that are in mechanics, and it's a mode of transportation for some people. So, I was like, okay, so we got to figure out how to petition the state and stay open. And we were able to get that done.
Oh, wow.
So,
wow.
That's pretty cool.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
We were able to get that done again through relationships, right? I knew who to call. I knew how to maneuver that, and we were able to figure that out. So
I get that.
It was really, really interesting.
Well, that's heartwarming and a very uplifting review on all of those interactions in your life. And I'm really happy to have learned all of that. Really am.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Anything that you wanted to add?
Did you want to do a question?
I do, but I wasn't sure if we were all set to segue into.
Yeah, I think we are.
Okay. Right.
Unless there was anything else you wanted to share that we didn't.
No, this is awesome. I love doing these things, and to get to be with Kristen again, and to just be here is really impressive. So congratulations, well done.
Thank you. It's been a journey. We've so 12 years ago I became self-employed, and that was a big step. There was a time that I was regretting it, and that was within the first 6 months, because it was like anxiety attack after anxiety attack. And I didn't have a name for it at the time, but now I do.
Yes.
But looking back, it was just, honestly, my soul needed to breathe, and leaving the corporate world was the breath that I needed to take. And honestly, the panic that set in wasn't a regret of leaving the corporate world. It was, okay, now I'm really on my own. How do I make it not feel that way? And I did that through creating relationships and maintaining relationships and just building that. And that's what I focused on the most. And it sounds a lot like what you did. Yeah, sure. And those relationships came back dividends, huge dividends, because I wasn't doing it so that I could make a buck. I was doing it so that I could network and build and grow and add value to people. And through that constant approach of adding value to other people's businesses and industries and whatever, it was all coming back to me. And I just really put it out there. So it's always nice to meet someone else who has that value in them and has applied that as well. Yep. So.
I feel the anxiety attacks too. I had my first one in November of 2020 because it was just, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November.
Yeah. Where did that go? Yeah.
What's going on?
Yeah.
And it was the pandemic, and it was lonely and scary.
It was for everyone, for sure.
Everyone, and I think that with the uncertainty of this business thing, and I got my bank account in the hood of my car because it was like, we're going to come out, put it on the car, you walk over, sign. We're going to stand over here, and then I'm going to walk over, and then you're going to bring your own pen and sign. I mean, that was the gist
February
of life.
of 2020.
That was
I cannot get over that.
Yes.
I cannot get over that.
It was crazy. Yeah. So what's this? The question.
So these are just thought-provoking questions, and they can be as simple or as complicated as you want them to be read. And if you don't like the question, or if it's not something that you want to talk about, feel free to take another.
Okay.
Take from the center of the pile or below. We seem to have a lot of top takers. We need to keep shuffling it, but no matter how much we shuffle it, we've gotten the same question so many times.
We really have.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to shuffle them a little.
You shuffle like me. That's good.
Do I? Oh, yeah. To whom do you want to give more attention? That's a big one. Let's see.
It can be the plural as well.
Yeah. I mean, my gut feeling when I got this question was, my kids, because they're growing up. And I really feel like that's going to be an opportunity for me. And when I was mentioning earlier about, my husband's going to retire and all of that, like, I have grandchildren. Oh my gosh. Like, I'm not going to want to work. I want to be with my grandchildren. So
I love that you're already thinking like that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people who they regret not spending time on their kids, but don't also recognize their children as adults, right? Who want to try to freeze frame that, which isn't obviously feasible.
Yeah. And I think, making sure that they're taken care of, and I want them more than anything to get a good start in life. And, I obviously work is important, and ethic is so important, and your work ethic is important. But I don't want them to have to struggle so hard like my mom did, like I did. I want them to know that they're okay and they're responsible. One of my daughters, she's investing already. This kid's like 16 years old. How do I make money?
Yep.
You can invest. Okay. And giving them the tools that I'm not necessarily had when I was little, right? Yeah.
Right.
You start investing $50, a month or something like that when you're 16. Imagine what you're going to get when you're 60.
Yeah.
So that's important. And I think to give more attention to my self-awareness too, that if I'm really not in a good space one day, it's okay to be that way. That I can accept that. And I can have a moment of reflection to say, you know what? It's okay to not be okay today.
Sure.
And I think to just really give more attention to what that feels like and to be accepting of it.
Yep.
And I think that will make me a better mom, a better business person, a better PR professional and practitioner and all of that. So yeah, that's where my heart went.
There you go.
That's where my heart went.
Wonderful. Yep.
Very
you got to go with the heart.
Yeah.
Because if you overthink something, you're just going to apply different values arbitrarily. I think because our minds have a way of shifting around our priorities where our hearts are pretty consistent with it if we just listen to them.
Yeah. One of the things I say to my clients when they're trying to make a decision, especially, I don't ever ask a client what they think. I ask them what they feel.
Yep.
What do you think? No, I don't want to know what you think. I want to know what you feel.
Yep.
How do you feel about it?
Yep.
What's it making you feel like?
Sure.
Because the feeling is what's going to hit them when they lay down in bed at night. And I need them to get a good night's sleep. Same with me. Decisions that I make, I need to make sure that they feel good. Because I want to sleep well at night. And I want to know that the decisions that I made, I did for what I felt was right.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And that's where the beliefs and the core values and the principles come from. It's not a thought process.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. We just talked about the ethical leader and CLI, and they gave us a challenge and I was just like, boom, I'm going in hard. And everyone's like, well, I don't know if I would do that approach. And I don't know. And I'm like, okay, I can be persuaded. But, the first thing I was like, no, beg, borrow, steal, let's go.
Oh no, I'm breaking in. I was like, I am not breaking in because I am scared. Like I am not doing that.
Yeah. So it was
very interesting.
It was basically a scenario about if your wife was dying and you had the opportunity to give her medicine, but it cost regularly, it was $200 or something like that for the medicine. But the pharmacist down the street was upping it to $2,000. Would you go in and would you steal the meds?
No.
Yep.
I would find another way of obtaining it.
Mm-hmm.
It was very interesting to see. It was almost like half and half.
It was half and half.
The room.
Yep.
Yep. I have siblings who would feel differently. And no judgment against them.
Yep.
But I could not sleep. I could not live with myself after that. No. Ever see, hopefully you have, Cinderella Man? No.
I haven't either.
Cinderella Man. It's with Russell Crowe.
Yeah.
It's about the Great Depression, and he's a boxer.
Sure.
Paul Giamatti is also in it. Fantastic.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
But long and short of it is, he refuses to receive welfare, and he ends up taking welfare, but then he pays it all back afterwards. And it's a very touching point in time. Because it's a defining characteristic of who he is. He's not going to be that guy, right? And of course, there's like shame and stuff like that attached to all that. That's a whole other topic for another day. But
yeah, sure.
That's kind of where I fall right there. Do what you're capable of doing, and then figure out a means of. Yep. Yeah, that would be my approach. But,
yeah, it was interesting. Very interesting.
Yeah, it was.
Lauren, it's been wonderful to have you on the show, and Kristen, thank you for having that invite extended to her.
Absolutely. No, we're so glad you were here, and you shared so much, and we're really appreciative of it.
Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Yeah, no, I love your story. It's very empowering. It honestly makes me want to be a better person. Yeah. Between you and Brandon today, I'm like,
that was a good.
I'm ready to like save punch. The world.
Yeah, that's good.
People wonder, they're like, now we know why you're friends, because Brandon and I are pretty tight.
Okay,
he's like my little brother in a way.
Yeah.
But,
okay.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, we're pretty tight. So.
Yeah,
that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm very thankful that CLI is really bringing a lot of good people together, making a lot of really good connections.
A really great class.
Yeah.
I always say, I'm like, it's the best class.
Yeah, it definitely is.
Well, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.